The evening lights of Paris flickered softly across the cobblestone streets, casting elongated shadows that danced like secrets in the dark. Julian walked alone, his mind a storm of desire and suspicion. He had always trusted Camille, the girl whose laughter once felt like sunlight, but recently, something in her eyes had changed to a flicker of hesitation. A subtle glance she tried to hide. He remembered the small, almost invisible touches she had shared with Marc, the friend he had known for years. What had seemed innocent before now carried a dangerous weight. Julian's chest tightened every time he thought of the moments they lingered too long. The way Camille's hand brushed against Marc's arm, her smile soft and knowing in ways she had never offered him. Meanwhile, Elise, Julian's confidant and best friend, had noticed the tension from the very beginning. Her sharp eyes, usually calm and serene, had caught Camille and Marc in fleeting exchanges that spoke louder than words. "Something is wrong," Elise whispered one evening, her voice low and urgent. "You need to see it before it's too late." Julian tried to push the thoughts aside, telling himself it was paranoia, but the truth has a way of slipping through even the most careful denial. One rainy night, he followed Camille after their dinner, keeping his distance, heart pounding, as he watched her meet Marc behind the soft glow of a street. Their laughter intertwined, intimate and knowing, and Julian's stomach churned with a mix of anger and longing. He wanted to confront her, to demand truth, but a deeper part of him still deeply in love hesitated. That hesitation was Elise's greatest weapon. She guided Julian, whispering strategy and reason, teaching him to observe, to understand motives before acting. "You have to know the game," she said, her hand resting on his arm. "Not every smile is innocent, not every word is truthful. Watch, listen, and then decide." Days turned into nights of tension and subtle confrontation. Julian invited Camille to the old library, where they had spent afternoons talking about life and art. He noticed her gaze darting toward Marc even as she spoke to him, the words flowing smoothly while her mind clearly wandered elsewhere. The romantic moments they shared, the warmth of her hand, the softness of her voice felt tainted with secrets, each tender touch carrying a double meaning he couldn't ignore. In a daring move, Julian orchestrated a small gathering at his apartment. Marc and Camille arrived, unsuspecting, while Elise helped him observe every gesture, every fleeting glance. The atmosphere hummed with quiet tension. Camille laughed, her hand brushing Marc's, unaware that Julian's gaze had catalogued every movement. Marc's charm was effortless, yet Julian now saw it for what it truly was, a tool, a way to manipulate and test boundaries. The night escalated subtly. Camille leaned toward Marc, whispering something, and Julian felt a pang of jealousy and heartbreak he had never anticipated. But instead of confronting, he observed. Elise whispered reminders. "Stay calm. Your power is in knowing, not in reacting." And Julian realized she was right. Understanding their game gave him control he had never imagined he could wield. Finally, Camille noticed Julian's intense stare. Their eyes met across the room, the air charged with unspoken truths. She smiled, nervously playful, but Julian saw past it. Every curve of her lips, every hesitation of her hand spoke volumes. The romantic tension, once comforting, now felt like a battlefield. Julian's heart ached with both desire and betrayal. As the night drew to a close, Camille left with Marc, unaware of Julian's silent observation. Julian stood by the window, watching them disappear into the Parisian night, and felt both pain and clarity. He understood now that love could be intoxicating, dangerous, and treacherous all at once. With Elise's guidance, he promised himself that the next step would not be impulsive, it would be calculated, deliberate, and unavoidable. And yet, despite the betrayal, his desire for Camille remained, tangled with anger and longing, a dangerous mix that promised storms ahead. The first chapter of his journey into the secrets of love, lust, and deception had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, Paris awoke with a pale golden light filtering through the tall windows, but Julian felt no warmth. His mind replayed last night's scenes, relentlessly, the subtle touches, the glances, the laughter that had never been his to claim. Camille had no idea that Julian had seen through the facade, that every smile she gave to Marc was now burned into his memory. He met Elise at a quiet cafe by the Seine, where the water mirrored the fragile light. She spoke softly, but with intensity. "You can't just sit there, Julian. Secrets will destroy you if you ignore them. You need to act carefully." Julian nodded, a mixture of anger and longing twisting in his chest. Elise's eyes, calm, yet piercing, gave him focus. He realized that his desire for Camille, though entangled with betrayal, could become a tool and instrument to reveal truths, to test loyalty, to confront passion and deception simultaneously. Later that afternoon, Julian saw Camille at a gallery opening, dressed in an elegant, flowing dress that drew every eye. Marc lingered near her, a shadow of charm and mischief, whispering in her ear with a confidence Julian had never envied more. The air between them seemed electric, a current of forbidden attraction. Julian's heart raced, yet he kept his distance, observing. Every laugh, every tilt of the head, every flicker of her eyes spoke of secrets that were meant to be hidden, but couldn't escape his scrutiny. Camille caught his gaze across the room. A brief flash of recognition, a nervous smile. It was playful, enticing, yet layered with complexity. She was aware that he was watching, and the thrill of secrecy seemed to excite her even more. Julian felt a dangerous pull, a longing he could not suppress. He realized that love, when mixed with deceit, became a force almost impossible to resist, a storm he could neither calm nor flee. That evening, Elise suggested a bold plan. "Invite them both to the same dinner," she said, her voice low and strategic. "You will see the truth unfold. Watch how Camille reacts when her worlds collide." Julian hesitated, his mind racing with scenarios of confrontation, confession, and temptation, but he trusted Elise's calm guidance. Preparation and observation were now his weapons. At dinner, the atmosphere was thick with unspoken words. Camille moved between Julian and Marc with effortless grace, yet every movement betrayed her tension. Marc's charm was deliberate, coaxing laughter and smiles, testing boundaries. Julian responded with quiet observation, letting subtle expressions and gestures reveal what words could not. The air between them pulsed with romantic tension, desire, and an undercurrent of betrayal that seemed almost tangible. A fleeting moment occurred when Camille reached for a glass of wine, her hand brushing Marc's, but Julian's sharp gaze captured it instantly. Elise's subtle nod reminded him that he was not merely watching love, he was witnessing a game of hearts, a dangerous interplay of trust and temptation. Julian realized he had to tread carefully. Any rash move could destroy everything, but patience and understanding would give him power. The dinner ended, but the tension did not. As Camille and Marc left, Julian's thoughts were a whirlwind of longing and strategy. The romantic allure of Camille was undeniable, yet the betrayal he had uncovered demanded reckoning. Elise's guidance echoed in his mind. The heart desires, but the mind survives. Observe, wait, and then act. Julian knew this was only the beginning. Secrets would unravel, emotions would collide, and every choice would shape the destiny of their tangled lives. That night, as the Parisian streets fell silent under a soft mist, Julian stood by the balcony, thinking of Camille, Marc, and the unseen forces at play. Desire, betrayal, and cunning mixed into a volatile storm he could neither ignore nor escape. The second chapter of love, deceit, and dangerous passion had begun, and Julian understood that the true game of hearts was only starting to reveal its depths. The following morning, Julian awoke to the faint light of Paris, spilling into his apartment. But sleep had not comforted him. Memories of last night's dinner lingered, Camille's laughter and Marc's mischievous smirk etched into his mind. He felt the sting of betrayal, sharper than ever, but desire, confusing and persistent, coursed through him relentlessly. Elise arrived with a sense of urgency, carrying a notebook filled with observations from Julian's encounters. "You can't ignore what you saw last night," she said, her tone measured but intense. "Camille's behavior is deliberate. Marc isn't the only one playing games, she is too. Watch closely. She wants to see what she can get from both of you." Julian nodded, determination and longing mingling in his chest. He understood that the delicate balance of love and deception would demand every ounce of patience and strategy he had. Later that day, Julian decided to confront subtle truths in the most daring way possible. He arranged a casual stroll along the Seine, inviting Camille and Marc together, under the guise of friendly curiosity. Camille arrived first, radiant and oblivious to the storm brewing within Julian. Marc followed, confident and charming, as ever. His every glance meant to provoke and entangle. As they walked, the conversation flowed easily, but Julian noticed the subtlest signals: Camille's hand brushing against Marc's arm, the lingering looks, the way her laughter shifted when he glanced at her. Desire, betrayal, and tension collided in every interaction, and Julian realized that observing was as intoxicating as it was painful. His pulse quickened, yet he maintained composure, knowing that every moment revealed more than words could convey. A sudden rain shower forced them under a small awning, bringing Camille uncomfortably close to Julian. Her perfume mingled with the scent of wet cobblestones, her breath warm near his ear. A flash of something unspoken passed between them, romantic, forbidden, dangerous. Julian's heart raced as he felt the electric pull of desire, even as betrayal whispered at the edges of his mind. Marc's mischievous grin cut through the moment, a reminder that this was a game, not merely a romantic entanglement. The tension thickened, palpable and almost suffocating, as Camille's attention flicked between the two men. Julian understood now that trust was fragile, and even the smallest gesture could carry immense meaning. Elise's words echoed, "Watch, don't react. Knowledge is your power." As the rain subsided, Julian guided them to a small cafe, where the warm glow of lights and the murmur of conversations heightened the intimate atmosphere. Camille and Marc's playful interactions continued, yet Julian's awareness of every nuance made him almost untouchable in his calm observation. Desire, jealousy, and suspicion interwove in a dangerous dance, a delicate web of romance and betrayal. At one point, Camille's hand brushed Julian's as she reached for her glass. The contact, fleeting yet electric, sent a shiver down his spine. He caught Marc's glance, confident and provocative, and realized that every person around him was a player in a game with stakes higher than love alone. Julian's heart ached with longing, anger, and anticipation, By the time the afternoon ended, Julian had catalogued every secret, every subtle betrayal, and every fleeting moment of desire. The tension was unbearable, yet intoxicating, a magnetic force pulling him deeper into the web of passion, deception, and emotional warfare. Standing outside the cafe, watching Camille and Marc leave, Julian felt clarity sharpen through the storm of his feelings. He knew that the next moves would define their relationships forever. That night, alone in his apartment, Julian replayed every scene, every subtle touch, every stolen glance. Desire and betrayal were no longer separate. They were fused, a dangerous alloy that demanded strategy, patience, and courage. Elise's guidance was his anchor, and he understood that the game of love and deception was only becoming more perilous. The third chapter of seduction, intrigue, and forbidden passion had begun, and Julian realized that what he did next could change everything forever. The following evening, the city lights shimmered across the Seine like liquid gold, but Julian felt none of its beauty. His thoughts were consumed by Camille and Marc, by the electric tension of their interactions, and by the dangerous pull of desire and betrayal. Elise had advised him to observe carefully, to understand motives before acting. And Julian had followed her guidance meticulously. But patience was harder than he imagined when every glance from Camille ignited a storm in his chest. He arranged to meet Camille at a quiet rooftop terrace overlooking the city, a place where the glow of Parisian lamps softened shadows and allowed intimacy to take hold. Marc was nearby, apparently engaged with another friend, but Julian knew better. His rival's charm was never idle. As Camille arrived, her smile lit up the terrace, warm and inviting, yet laced with subtle mischief. Every step she took, every tilt of her head, seemed calculated to provoke emotion, to test boundaries, to pull at Julian's heart. Julian's pulse raced as she moved closer, brushing her fingers against his arm, in a touch that seemed accidental, but was anything but. Desire and suspicion collided in his chest, and he fought the urge to reach out and pull her closer. Her eyes flickered with an unspoken acknowledgement, a knowing glimmer that told him she was aware of his vigilance. The tension between them was almost tangible, thickening the night air like perfume. Marc appeared at the edge of the terrace, his confident presence immediately shifting the dynamic. Camille's attention flicked between Julian and Marc, the romantic dance of attraction and betrayal intensifying with each heartbeat. Julian noticed every subtle gesture, the curl of Camille's lips, the angle of her gaze, the way her hand lingered a moment too long near Marc. The interplay was intoxicating, maddening, and deeply revealing. Elise's voice echoed in Julian's mind, reminding him to remain calm and strategic. He watched, catalogued, and felt the emotional pull without succumbing, a balancing act between reason and passion. Camille's laughter, soft and melodic, sounded like both a balm and a provocation, drawing him in while simultaneously cutting deep into his awareness of her divided loyalties. A sudden breeze stirred the terrace, tossing Camille's hair across her face. Julian reached out to brush it aside, a gesture loaded with intimacy, but she held his gaze, challenging him silently. In that moment, desire and betrayal were inseparable. Every choice mattered, every look carried weight. The romantic tension escalated, leaving Julian aware that the next move could ignite a fire that could not be controlled. As the evening progressed, Marc's casual proximity reminded Julian that Camille's secrets were still at play, and that trust had been fractured. Yet the allure of her presence, the magnetic pull of her eyes, and the heat of the moment made it impossible to turn away. He realized that understanding the game was one thing, navigating desire within it was another. Every stolen glance, every brush of the hand, every subtle smile became part of a dangerous narrative, a story of love, lust, and betrayal. By the time the night ended, Julian had seen the pattern. Clearly Camille's heart was divided, her intentions layered, and the web of relationships both delicate and treacherous. Standing alone on the terrace, looking out at the glittering city below, he knew that he was no longer merely an observer. He was a participant, a player in a complex dance of romance and deceit. And the next chapter would demand courage, strategy, and the willingness to confront desire and betrayal head-on. The fourth chapter of forbidden passion, intrigue, and emotional warfare closed with a single understanding. In love, the heart could be both a weapon and a vulnerability, and every choice now carried consequences that could not be undone. The city was silent that night, the moon casting a pale glow over Paris as Julian walked the familiar streets, every step weighed down by the storm of emotions inside him. Camille's laughter, Marc's mischievous glances, the subtle provocations all replayed in his mind. The tension, desire, and betrayal that had built over days now demanded resolution. Elise met him at their usual spot by the Seine, her presence a calm anchor. Tonight, she whispered, everything will be revealed. Watch closely, feel, but do not lose yourself to anger or longing. Every choice counts. Julian nodded, his heart pounding, knowing that the final chapter of this intricate web was about to unfold. Camille appeared first, radiant and enigmatic, every movement calculated yet alluring. Marc followed, his confidence masking both amusement and subtle cunning. Julian's pulse raced as he watched the delicate interplay brush of Camille's hand against Marc, The playful smirk in his eyes, the stolen glances, and the unspoken tension that made the air thick. Julian stepped forward. His calm exterior belying the torrent inside, he approached Camille, voice steady but eyes fiery. "We need to be honest," he said, every word deliberate. Camille's gaze faltered, a mixture of desire and guilt flickering across her expression. Marc remained nearby, the playful charm suddenly tense under Julian's scrutiny. The rooftop terrace where they had met earlier became the stage for confession, confrontation, and revelation. Camille's lips trembled as she admitted the stolen moments with Marc, the subtle betrayals that had tested Julian's trust. Marc smirked, attempting charm, but Julian's steady presence now countered every move. The emotional energy between them crackled like lightning, charged with passion, regret, and forbidden longing. Elise watched from a distance, her eyes sharp, guiding Julian silently. "See the truth," she reminded him, "and then decide." Julian's heart ached with longing, yet clarity shone through the storm of desire and betrayal. He realized that love was never simple, that desire could be dangerous, and that trust, once broken, required courage to mend or strength to abandon. Camille stepped closer, her hand brushing Julian's. The touch carried both apology and temptation, a confusing mix that set his pulse racing. Desire and betrayal collided violently inside him. Marc's presence, once comforting to Camille, now felt like a threat to every heartbeat Julian owned. The tension, simmering for days, erupted into a climax of emotions, a moment charged with intimacy, regret, and the dangerous thrill of secrets revealed. Finally, Julian made his choice, a decisive act that balanced understanding, desire, and strategy. The night air seemed to hold its breath as Camille and Marc realized the gravity of the truths laid bare. Every glance, every whispered word, every touch had led to this point: love, betrayal, and desire intertwined in ways no one could ignore. As the city slept below, Julian looked to Elise and whispered a quiet thank you. The storm of emotions, the dangerous games of hearts, and the intricate dance of romance and deception had reached a turning point. He knew the journey was far from over, but for now, the web of secrets had been exposed, and every player understood the rules of this dangerous game. If you want to see every hidden twist, every secret encounter, and the full depth of desire, betrayal, and forbidden romance, watch the full video now. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat.